Okay, can everybody see the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. My name is Brandy, and I am a financial aid counselor at TWU at the Denton campus. On behalf of the TWU Financial Aid Office, I want to welcome you to this presentation. We hope to educate you on the perimeters of financial aid, and then my colleague Faldy will assist you with scholarships as soon as I'm done. I hope to help you as far as what types of financial aid programs there are available. And at the end, we'd be glad to answer any questions that you have, because we are here for you. Okay, what exactly is financial aid? All right, so financial aid basically is funds from the federal and state governments. And it can also come from the institution, the college that you attend, TWU. And it can also come from private resources that assist in bridging the gap between the cost of your tuition and fees and how much that we can help you in assisting towards your educational goals. All right, there are different types of financial aid available when it comes to applying for financial aid. There are grants, loans, and work study. So the difference are the difference in the would be the grants are need-based funds that students don't have to pay back as long as they successfully complete their classes in good academic studying progress. Work study is a great program. If you're interested in work study, all you basically have to do is contact the financial aid office. There is an app, a website through TWU called Handshake. If you log into Handshake, there'll be job postings from different departments. There'll be work study and non-work study jobs available. You just basically would submit your resume and apply. Definitely contact our financial aid office and we can see if you qualify for work study. It's a need-based award that the students can actively earn and work, and you would work no more than 20 hours a week, and you get paid once a month to help you with your educational expenses. The funds do go directly to you, so it's up to you to decide what you would like to do with the funding. And it also looks great on your resume. And loans, there are different types of loans. There's the federal direct subsidized loan program, unsubsidized program, and also the federal direct parent plus loan. Synopsis difference is the subsidized loan is where the federal Department of Government is paying the interest while you're in school. Unsubsidized loans is where interest accrues while you're in school, but you don't have to pay either one back till 6 months after you graduate with your final degree, as long as you're enrolled in at least half-time status, which is considered 6 credit hours. The Parent Plus loan itself, that is a great opportunity if your parents would like to help you fund your education. You would log in to a website, studentaid.gov. Your parents would log in and they can apply for the Federal Direct Parent Plus loan. The amount would be what we'll discuss cost of attendance here in a little bit, but it'd be the cost of attendance minus any aid that you have or whatever your parents would like to apply for. If the parent is approved for the Parent Plus loan, we'll continue to process the loan. We'll receive the information electronically, but if they're denied the Parent Plus loan, that's where we can help you with an additional unsubsidized Stafford loan in your name. So they're great opportunities for helping pay for classes. How do you apply for financial aid assistance? Basically, you would just go to the studentaid.gov website, log in with your FAFSA credentials. If you don't have a login, you can always log in to apply for a login. And you would complete, like this academic year, it would be the 23-24 FAFSA application. For the next academic year, the 24-25 FAFSA application will be available sometime in December. The FAFSA is changing a little. They're trying to make it a lot easier for students, okay? So just start looking out for that in December. Our academic year, for those of you that would like to know, starts in the summer. goes to the fall and ends in the spring. So right now we are going into the fall semester, which we based upon the 23-24 FAFSA application. And then again in December, the 24-25 FAFSA will be available coming up soon. The October 1st date there was actually for 23-24 FAFSA. And so since the FAFSA is changing, it'll be available sometime in December for 24-25. And basically, whenever you fill out your FAFSA application, several years back, we went into what we call a prior year. So for the 23-24 FAFSA, you'll be utilizing 2021 tax information. So when you log in, you'll put in if you filed taxes. If you didn't, just put it that you didn't file for yourself. So you'll enter in your 2021 tax information and your parents, if applicable, their 2021 tax information, and then at the very end, submit it to TWU. The deadline for the 23-24 FAFSA application was January 15th. That is a priority deadline. Basically, that means that we have a little bit of funding that we receive that we award for students who met that priority deadline. But if you haven't submitted your FAFSA as of today, it's okay. We still continue taking in the FAFSAs and processing all the way through the end of this year and continuing on to the next semester. So if you haven't submitted your FAFSA, it's not too late. We can still help you as far as processing your financial aid. Now that January 15th priority deadline, that's been assigned every year. I'm not sure if that's going to change for 24-25. That's to be determined at this time. Okay, so I mentioned a little bit about cost of attendance and how does that work? Well, the cost of attendance is made up of several variables. For example, it's made up of tuition fees, room and board, whether you're living on campus, off campus, at home while you're in college, books, living expenses, transportation, all those components combined make up the cost of attendance, okay? So here's an example. This is just a hypothetical example. Your cost of attendance, let's just say it's $20,000, okay? That's what's been assigned, and that's just a random number. And that's including tuition, fees, books, room and board, and living expenses, okay? And then that EFC, that's an estimated family contribution. Basically, that is determined from your FAFSA application. So when you fill out your FAFSA application, a number is calculated to determine what type of need-based aid that you qualify for. So whenever you, at the very end and you submit your FAFSA, it's going to give you a calculated number. And so let's say that EFC is 5,000, hypothetically, okay? You take 20,000, subtract the EFC from your FAFSA application, which is 5,000, then you have 15,000 left over. That 15,000 is what you could qualify for in need-based programs, which could consist of grants, work study, subsidized loans, and different types of scholarships can also be used in that need-based configuration. All right, programs that do require financial need, grants, for example, there's the Pell Grant, there's the Underboard Authorized Grant. When you become a grad student, it'll be a graduate student grant. Subsidized loans, it is considered need-based, and the government's paying the interest while you're in school on the subsidized loans. And then as far as scholarships, that would also consider whether you're receiving a scholarship outside of TWU or within TWU. All right, so basically, how much is an estimated tuition and fees of a breakdown per semester, okay? So this particular one is based upon an academic year, 30 total hours, which would be 15 hours for fall and 15 hours for spring, and that's what they encourage you to take. Although 12 hours is full-time, it's encouraged to take 15 hours per semester, and as far as, so you can graduate on time. And so the tuition and fees based upon 15 hours per semester is $10,440. So let's just do a little bit of calculation. So if you take 10,440 divided by 30 hours, that's an average of about $348 per credit hour. And so that does include tuition and fees, which is great. Okay. So if you're kind of thinking, okay, how many hours am I going to take this semester? Well, I'm going to take 9 hours. So you would just multiply 348 times the 9 hours, and that's around about how much your tuition and fees are going to be, depending upon your major and the classes that you're going to be enrolled in. Room and board, this one right here is a component of on-campus, and that is for the academic year, $11,358 for room and board. Books and supplies, that's just an average of how much books and supplies are going to be per academic year. As far as books, you can, have choices to buy your books on campus or at a off-campus store. It's up to you. Okay. Transportation, gas, that's also included in the component, and personal expenses, things that may occur while you're attending school. And so this right here, the $26,502 is just an estimate of how much it's going to cost for you to live and go to school while you're attending classes at TWU for the academic year. All right, so understanding the cost. So we have the tuition and fees, the $10,440. You have your books at $1,140. You have your room and board at $11,358, a total of $22,938. All right, so let's say that you completed your FAFSA application and your estimated family contribution was 0. That would mean that you qualify for the maximum amount of financial aid that is available. And so let's say that right here, your scholarships for the academic year is $4,000. Your total grants, which could include state and or federal grants, is $13,195. And then you have a subsidized loan of $3,500 and an unsubsidized loan of $2,000. Your total financial aid package would be $22,695 for the academic year to help you with your educational expenses. So how much would you owe if you accepted only scholarships and grants? So the scholarships and grants would be the $5,743, and then the scholarships, that's how much you would owe if you accepted only scholarships and grants. What if you accepted scholarships, grants, and student loans? Then that balance right there, the $22,43 is how much you would owe. And if you accepted, and this is hypothetically that this is your financial aid package, okay, just an FYI, then you have your scholarships, grants, you subsidized and unsubsidized loans, then the $243 would be your balance outside for that semester. Okay, so on this particular scenario, so let's say your direct cost for the tuition fees is for the academic year $10,440. Your books are $1,140 for the academic year. Your room and board is $11,358. So your total for the academic year would be $22,938. And your financial aid award package, your estimated family contribution from the FAFSA is $7,000. Okay, so now you have scholarships that are $4,000. You have grants that are $2,400 for the academic year. You have federal work study. You have your subsidized and unsubsidized loans. So your total financial aid package for the academic year is $16,540. So how much would you owe if you accepted only scholarships and grants? So for the academic year, you would owe $16,538. That is for a fall spring semester. How much would you owe if you accepted scholarships, grants, and subsidized loans? You would owe $13,038. And how much would you owe if you took out scholarships, grants, subsidized, and unsubsidized loans? Would be the $11,038. Okay, I know that a lot of students have had questions on the Zero Tuition Guarantee Program. Basically, this program, I call it Bridge the Gap program. Okay, it's another way of kind of looking at it as far as zero tuition. I do know that we will start reviewing students who are Pell Grant eligible, who have been awarded the Pell Grant. They will be considered for the zero tuition program, and we'll start reviewing those after the census date, which is around the middle of September for this fall semester. Okay, so who is eligible for the zero tuition program? Students who are eligible and completed and submitted the FAFSA application or a TASFA application. And so the FAFSA is the one that you would fill out on studentaid.gov, and the TASFA is a paper application for students who qualify under that program, but not eligible to fill out the FAFSA. So it's just one, not both. As far as when you fill it out, you either fill out the FAFSA if you qualify or the TASFA if you qualify. They must have financial need. So, for example, they must be awarded a federal Pell Grant. They have to enroll in full-time hours, which is considered 12 hours per semester. They are also need to be first time in college, new freshmen coming in, or transfer from another college starting in the fall, not summer, but starting in the fall semester. Okay. And so basically how it works, here's a guide right here where it says fall 2023 zero tuition eligibility calculation. Okay. So let's say that your fall 2023 for the 15 hours is $5,404. And in your financial aid package for that semester, you have, for the fall semester, you were awarded a scholarship of $1,000. You've been awarded a Pell Grant of $3,698. And then you're awarded a Texas grant of $2,500. Okay. Well, this right here, if this is your financial aid package, then you wouldn't need the zero tuition program because your tuition and fees are being met by your financial aid package. Okay. But another scenario, let's say your tuition and fees are $5,000 and you were awarded a scholarship and a grant of $4,000 and you still have $1,000 still that needs to be met. That's where the zero tuition program will come in and bridge the gap and take care of the tuition and fees. And it does only cover tuition fees. It doesn't cover housing or books or any other related costs as well. There's so I kind of wanted to discuss a little bit about our other financial aid programs in more detail. We have what we call the Federal Work Study Program. It's a need-based financial aid program. Basically, students, again, would go online to Handshake and they can submit their resume, apply, and the departments would reach out to you if they'd like to schedule an interview. If you have work study, basically, or if you're interested in applying for the work study funding, just contact our office. So this is basically how it works. You may see a work study award out there of like $2320 or something like that. So you were awarded $2,320 for that semester. It's not funds that's going to directly go to you unless you have a job that you're working towards those funds. Okay. So if you worked 80 hours for that 1 month and your supervisor set your pay, hypothetically, let's say it's $10, you take 80 hours times $10, which is around $800 that month. That check will be sent to you to use however you like. You can pay your tuition with it. It's your money, okay? And that $800 will be subtracted from the $2320. And so if you don't use all the funding, the money goes back to the federal government. If you go over, then we'll do what we can to try to increase it if we can, or the department would supplement the rest of the amount if you're still working within that department. Federal Direct Parent Plus Loan. Basically, students that are an undergrad, considered a dependent undergrad according to the FAFSA application, can apply for the Federal Direct Parent Plus Loan. their parents online at studentaid.gov. They log in using their FAFSA credentials. We pull in a list every 2 weeks, and we receive the information electronically. It is a credit-based loan. It would be in the parents' names. Parents would have to apply for the parent loan in their name. Students, they cannot receive a parent loan if it's in their name. Okay. The parent can decide how much they would like to apply for either a fall, spring, or a fall, spring semester combined. And but it cannot exceed the student's cost of attendance, which is typically on your award letter minus any financial aid that you've been awarded. If mom or dad, only one parent can apply, by the way. If mom or dad is denied due to adverse credit, the Parent Plus loan, we do receive the approvals and or denials electronically. That's where we would award you an additional unsubsidized Stafford loan in your name to help you bridge the gap between what your final bill is for your tuition and fees and housing minus what your financial aid would be. So in order to help you out with that. We also have, you can apply for a private student loan through any bank of your choice. They would let you know whether or not your approval will go through, and option to have a co-signer that would be between you and the bank of your choice. Okay. Before we get into special circumstances, just one more thing I wanted to tell you. I get a lot of questions about subsidized versus unsubsidized loans. Just the difference is the subsidized loan is where the government is paying the interest while you're in school. Unsubsidized loan, interest accrues while you're in school, but you don't have to pay either one back till 6 months after you graduate with your final degree, as long as you're enrolled at least 6 credit hours per semester. So that's pretty important to know kind of the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized. If you've been awarded the loans, you can make a decision online in your TWU self-service account under the financial aid section to decide whether or not you'd like to accept, reject. You can even reduce the loans, but you do need to make a decision on the subsidized loan before the unsubsidized loan first. So there are also dependent levels as well. So the Department of Ed puts a gap on how much a student can borrow per academic year. So for freshmen, it's a total of $5,500. Dependent freshmen, dependent sophomores is $6,500, and junior seniors can borrow up to $7,500 per academic year as a dependent student. And the levels are higher if you're independent, but not to exceed for junior seniors $12,500. There's also a chart on our financial aid website that kind of explains the different borrowing levels per depending upon the student's classification. Okay. I know at times things happen, COVID was a great example, that as far as, you're going to school, you may be working and something happens, a family emergency happens, okay? Our office does offer special circumstance applications. And so if you find yourself in a situation where you or your parents have lost their job, one of the parents passes away, they're losing their benefits, maybe that child support was reported on the taxes, but they're not receiving that anymore, loss of Social Security, or another special circumstance would be, let's say that you have extremely high medical dental expenses that wasn't taken into consideration when you filed taxes, or you have something happen to where you have high expenses. It could be a fire or something like that. Your house had burnt down, then you're welcome to submit the special circumstance application. And based upon the documentation that you turn in, we can make a professional judgment decision to see if there's any other type of financial aid that we can help you as far as when you're working on your undergraduate degree. Now, I will tell you that if your estimated family contribution is already 0, then when we review your special circumstance application, we wouldn't be able to assist you because you're receiving the maximum amount of aid that we can offer and help you. It does take several weeks to review the application, but we do review them in detail and reach out to you if there's anything else that we need to help you with that application. Dependency overrides. There are certain circumstances where a student finds himself in this situation to where they're experiencing abandonment, neglect, or abuse, and they don't feel comfortable, you know, with talking with their parents, or maybe they don't even have contact with their parents. Then they can apply for a dependency override application, and we would review the documentation that you turn in to help you with that application process. And the special circumstance and the dependency override application is available under the form section on our financial aid website for you to fill out. And we will definitely, we process them in date order as quickly as we can. And we work with you to see if there's any other forms that we need in order to make that decision. All right, we just kind of wanted to give you a little reminder. You know, I know you're all excited about going to school, and just a few key points of what you probably need to do before classes start, okay? So just the main thing that a lot of students don't realize in self-service is even though they've been awarded their financial aid package, not only would they accept, reject, or reduce and make a decision on their financial aid, but they also need to e-sign their award letter, okay? And that is available online in self-service. So when you log in to your self-service account, go to the financial aid section, and you can make a decision on your financial aid award package. But then whenever you have finalized that decision, it's going to be a little tab at the bottom left-hand corner that says your award letter is ready for you to e-sign. Just click on that, and then you can e-sign your award letter. If you've been awarded federal direct loans, subsidized and or unsubsidized loans, just a gentle reminder that we still, if you haven't already, need you to complete your master promissory note and entrance loan counseling. The master promissory note is a contract between you and the Federal Department of Ed government promising to pay the loans back at least 6 months after you graduate with your final degree. And of course, we want to educate you on the various parameters of the loan before you take out the loan. So we want you to complete entrance loan counseling. And if we just ask that you read everything, because it's important information so that you'll understand what the loans are. And, you know, as far as when it's time to pay them back, we want you to get a general grasp on that whenever you're taking out the loans. And then if you're interested in work study or have work study, we encourage you now to go ahead and put in your work study applications. There are different departments that are hiring now, even though the fall semester hasn't started, and they are looking to hire. So we encourage you to at least go out and take a look at it if you're interested in applying for work study on campus jobs. As soon as you register for classes, if you log into your TWU self-service payment portal system, you'll be able to see how much your tuition and fees are. I get a lot of questions from students when they call, and they get confused because they see their financial aid award package, and they said, it looks like payment has already been made. We will start paying the students' bills after September 1st. As long as you have enough financial aid to cover your total tuition and fee bill, your classes will be held. If you don't have enough financial aid to cover, then you can always apply for a payment plan to lock your classes into place, as I know payments do for the fall term. And if you haven't been awarded financial aid, then the cashier bursar's office offers an emergency payment plan to help you cover your tuition on so that you can at least start classes. So your fall bill is actually one bill. It can consist of, if you're living on campus, your on-campus housing charges, your meal plan, and your tuition and fees. Doesn't include books unless you go to the bookstore and charge that to your account, which there's a bridge open window for that if you have enough financial aid to help with that. Okay. And so it says here the fall 2023 financial aid will disperse to your account on the first day of classes. And so basically what that means is we are going to disperse your financial aid around that time towards your bill, and then but refunds won't be dispersed till right before the census date, because students change their classes, and so that's the reason why they chose to do that. So you have an opportunity to change your classes, and then if you're due a refund, it'll be sent to your Bank Mobile account. So for those of you that are not familiar with how the refunds are processed, make sure that you log into the TW Bursar's office website, and you'll be able to choose how you would like your refund dispersed. TW is contracted with Bank Mobile, so your refund can be dispersed either on your Bank Mobile card, or it can be sent to your own personal bank account if you're receiving a refund for the fall semester. This is our contact information. We are actually the Denton campus. We are located on the second floor of the ACT building. If you have a question, you're welcome to give us a call, or you can send us an email. We just kind of during this time frame ask for your patience, because fall is about to start, and sometimes we have a little bit of a high phone call volume. So we just, during the fall semester, if you call, we are on the phones, I promise you, answering each one of your questions. And emails right now do take a bit of a time. We try to answer them within 5 business days, but sometimes it may take a little bit longer to answer emails. But we are excited you're here. We're glad that you're going to be attending TWU, and we just know one important factor is we are here for you. We're here to help you with your educational goals, and that's what we want to do for you guys. So I want to say thank you so much, and welcome to TWU. You are a pioneer. Woo woo.
Thank you very much, Brandy. I am still going through the comments. I am making sure to respond to your financial aid questions. If we're able to, we'll respond immediately. If it's something that's going to take the expertise from Brandy Henry or from Mafalda Chandler, those questions will be answered at the end, okay? So next up, we have our scholarship portion.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mafalda Chandler, and I am the Associate Director of Scholarships here at Texas Women's University. I'm very excited to be here with you this morning. Welcome, everyone. And thank you, Brandy. You did such a great job. I always learn something from these presentations, too. Even though I work in the same office, there's still things that I'm learning. So, yeah, there's a lot to know. And we are here once again, as Brandy mentioned, we are here for you. We know that this is going to be like drinking from a fire hydrant, right? So it's a lot of information. I don't know if some of you are taking notes or not, but it's a lot. And so we understand. And if you have questions, we're here for you, okay? I think I'm going to start my presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you can see it. I think it's screen 1. Let's try that. All right, how's that working? Can you see it?
We can see it.
Okay, great. Now let me see if I can find my little thing with that. Okay, with the arrows here. All right, so I'm going to share with you all about scholarships. And I know that you are the Summer Bridge program, so I do know that there's going to be a lot of probably questions that you have about our different promise programs like the Dallas Promise and the T3 and Texome and Red River, et cetera. So I'm going to give you an overview of all of scholarships because I think it's important for you to know and to understand. And also because there may be other opportunities available to you that I want you to take advantage of, okay? All right, so let's get started. I like to get started by showing the differences between, and let me move this over because I think you probably can see. Were you seeing this on top of the screen or not?
We can see your whole slide, financial aid versus scholarships.
But do you see the little icons with the people on top or no?
I do not.
Okay, great. So I'll put it back. All right. So financial aid versus scholarship, I like to show the differences between, because, you know, even though we are the same office, financial aid and scholarships, we do have a lot of different processes and even different policies. And so I just like to share this with you. And I'm going to go back and forth between our slides. So I apologize. I hope it doesn't confuse your eyes or anything like that. But so financial aid, as Brandy stated, is basically state. It's funded by state or institutional grants. So we have, or federal grants, like the Pell Grant, for example. The Texas grant is a state grant. The Texas Public Education Grant, I call them TPEC, that's also a state grant. And then we have subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Financial aid, we offer institutional scholarships, departmental, and general named scholarships. And these are usually paid by donor gifts, except for institutional scholarships. That's from us. That's from basically our university funds. Financial aid is need-based. So basically they look at your FAFSA, which is based on your parents or your own tax information. And then, as Brandy explained, it is determined your need and how much aid you can get from your perceived financial need. For scholarships, we really consider you based on your academic merit or sometimes talent, depending on what you're studying. If you're a music student, for example, you may have to go through an audition to determine if you are going to receive a scholarship. If you are an art student, you may need to submit your portfolio, etc. For the financial aid, grants, etc., you will need to submit your FAFSA application every year. For scholarships, for institutional scholarships, you do not need an application. So we just use your Apply Texas, and then based on your grades coming in from your high school and your ranking and other information that we may get, it is determined how much you would be offered in institutional scholarships. And those usually, and I'll go over these, they're the ones that start with the TWU, TWU Oakley, TWU Excellence, TWU-Pioneer, etc. Those are the institutional. And the Boldly Go, those do not require an application. But for departmental scholarships and other general scholarships that are donor-based, we do require a scholarship application. So let me see if I can actually, I don't know where I put that. Where's the chat? I had already started here. Okay, I'm gonna send this out. That's the link for our scholarship application. And the deadline is March 1st. So I highly recommend that you apply now so you don't forget. It's open July 1st and will close March 1st. So for financial aid, some grants and funds may be limited. And so it's very important that you complete your FAFSA early. Again, next year's or this year's an exception because we don't know when the FAFSA will be available yet. But generally, the FAFSA application is available October 1st. There is a deadline or a preferred deadline that are here for summer and fall, January 15th. And then spring is September 1st. For the scholarships, we do have that deadline, as I mentioned. So it opens July 1st and most opportunities close March 1st. Something that I skipped. So in terms of criteria for both of them, for financial aid, we don't make a lot of decisions. A lot of this is just formulas that the federal government or the state decide for us, and we just play by the rules that we are told to play. For scholarships, we do have committees. So we have different committees. For the general ones, we have the strategic, so the institutional, the strategic enrollment planning committee. And then we have the general scholarship committee, which does the general donor-based ones. And then we have each department has their own scholarship committees as well. So we have lots of committees, and they are the ones who make decisions as far as who is going to get those other scholarships. And here it is again. Our general scholarship application opens July 1st, and most opportunities close March 1st. We do have a few exceptions, but this is the general rule. For financial aid, like Brandy mentioned, you do need to enroll at least in 6 credit hours if you're an undergraduate student. And the hours have to be applicable to your degree plan to be counted toward your financial aid. For scholarships, you need at least 12 credit hours for the great majority of them. We do have a few that are part-time, but most of them are going to require that you enroll full-time. Financial aid does require something we call SAP, which is student academic progress. So you have to retain a minimum GPA in your first year is 1.8, but then it goes up to a 2.0. And then you have to complete successfully at least 66.67% of attempted hours per semester. For scholarships, you just need to keep a 3.0 GPA in order for most scholarships. We do have other scholarships that have sometimes a lower GPA, but the majority is 3.0. All the promises are 2.0. Something I like to indicate, because I think it's really important for you to know, for financial aid, the academic year actually starts in the summer. So you may already, if you've started in the summer, you may already have received some financial aid. And then, so their academic year is summer, fall, spring. For scholarships, our academic year starts in the fall. So when we send you a scholarship offer, it does not cover summer. Okay, and we hardly have anything in the summer. Usually we have fall and spring scholarships, and then basically summer is just sometimes we may have some departmental scholarships that were unused because perhaps the student graduated early or didn't come. And so sometimes we have leftover funds. It's not very common. So typically we don't have summer scholarships. All right, let's move on. I'll just mention briefly our institutional scholarships. So the ones that did not require an application, so just your Apply Texas. To compete for the scholarships, you know, we have our TWU Chancellor's Endowed Scholarship. That's one scholarship. That's like one student who is chosen every year as an incoming FTIC, so first time in college student. It covers full tuition and fees, and then offers an extra $1,500 a year as a book stipend. And then we have the TWU Oakley Scholarship, which is $6,000 a year. The outstanding goes either $4,000 or $5,000. The excellence is either $3,000 or $4,000. The Pioneer is $2,000 or $3,000. We do have a new transfer student scholarship, which is $2,000 a year. I think all of you here are first time in college, but I'm not 100% certain. And then we have a Boldly Go, which is based on where, so how far you're coming from campus. It's based on distance, and the amounts vary. And we also fund them with different sources of funding. And so we have institutional funds that cover this. We have set-asides that cover this. We have also a couple of private donors who are also funding the Boldly Go. So if you have a private funder funding your Boldly Go, please check your email and go into the scholarship system. I posted the link in the chat to see if there's an offer there that you need to accept and provide us what we call the post-acceptance questionnaire, which is basically what we use to thank our donor. Other scholarships we offer, these do require a scholarship. So, and some of these, if you haven't received yet, you won't be able to receive in the future, like the Terry. It requires an interview besides the application. Same for legacy leaders and honors, and the PLC, which is the President's Leadership Council Scholarship. The Innovator is I believe, may still be open. This is for students who want to start, who have an entrepreneurial spirit and have an idea for a business they would like to start. So this helps you get started. with a little bit of scholarship funds. We do have the Touchstone Honors, that's for transfer students. And here's the Boldly Go Again. And then departmental scholarships, which vary. And then the general endowed scholarships, which amounts vary as well. So all of these do require an application. There's the link at the top of the slide, and the one that I put in the comments as well, tw.academicworks.com. Okay, really briefly, because I don't think anyone here probably needs to know about this, but we do have something called competitive scholarship waiver, which basically allows any non-resident of the state of Texas to pay the same as a resident if they receive a scholarship that is competitive for at least $1,000 a year. So if you are a non-resident of the state of Texas and you have received any competitive scholarship, which is any of those that I've just listed, of $1,000 or more per year, then you would be eligible to pay in-state tuition. All right, let's go into the promises. All right, so we do offer a last dollar scholarship for our Promise partners. And they are the Dallas County Promise. We have the T3, which is a Tarrant to and through. And then we have the Red River and the Texoma. So these are last dollar tuition. It's kind of like Brandy explained the zero tuition guarantee. It's the same process, but it's for these specific partners. And so it covers the gap that is left in tuition and fees after everything has applied. So the free money, like I like to say. So what the money you don't have to pay back. So it doesn't count the loans because that you have to pay back, but all the money you don't have to pay back gets subtracted from your tuition and fees. And then if there's anything still left to pay, that's when your promise comes in and covers your bill. So eligibility, you have to have submitted your pledge already through your high school by their deadline. You have to have been admitted to TW by March 1st. You have to have completed your FAFSA by March 1st. Your family adjusted gross income must be less than $65,000 a year, or you must be Pell eligible. So it's either or. And this actually also includes TASFA, because we don't just look at if you receive the Pell, but if you would have received the Pell, then we grant you that scholarship as well. Your TW admission GPA must be a 2.0 or higher to maintain your scholarship. And then you must be a Texas resident for this one, or all the last dollar ones. I always like to caution students that dual credit, that courses that you took, their GPAs do count toward your college GPA, okay? So just be aware of that. Sometimes if you come in with a very low GPA, this may affect your eligibility for scholarships and even financial aid. And so that's something that I like to point out, make sure. So I like to say now you're turning over that page, you're starting fresh, right? So you get a new chance to start new and invest in yourself and invest in your studies and get a 4.0 GPA. Why not? Aim for the stars, right? And so the higher the GPA, the better your chances of getting a scholarship. And especially if you have a low GPA from your dual credit, you need to bring it up. Make sure you bring up your GPA, speak with an advisor so that they can help you select courses that will propel you for success. And once again, enroll in 12 credit hours per semester minimum. And here's just a little bit of an example, just like Brandy brought. This is based on 30 hours for fall and spring. Just checking the time real quick because I want time for questions. If, for example, you have a Pell of 2,000, and this is for the previous year, so this is not up to date. I apologize for that. I need to get an up-to-date one. Now it's at around 10,000, but it's very close. If, say, you have a Pell Grant for 2,000, and I use just round numbers to make things easier, a scholarship for 1,000, that's your total in aid is 3,000. So your tuitions and fees are listed here. So 6,921 plus 3,039 equals 9,960. And so your last dollar would be your total tuition and fees minus your total gift aid, which is your grants and your scholarships. And in this case, you would have a Dallas Promise or a T3 or Texoma or Red River of $6,960. If, for example, you get gift aid in the amount of $11,000, which is actually not uncommon, then once again, just like the zero tuition, you would not see that in your account because you're already covered with your gift aid. So there's no gap to fill with your Promise scholarship. Okay, scholarship offer. If you have qualified for one of our Promise scholarships, you have received a scholarship offer and you have received a notification through your TWU email. And then it is in the Pioneer scholarship system. So the one that I've given you, once again, the link that's in the chat. You can go there and look under the tab that says My Applications, and you should be able to find your Promise scholarship offer there. Make sure you read it thoroughly and you understand the terms of, we see this as a contract, basically. And I like to say that because we do have requirements. And I've already mentioned those, but it's never too much to mention them again. So make sure you read that. So there's the address at twu.academicworks.com. And then just read the requirements. They're right here for this. It's like submit the pledge by the deadline. I've highlighted in yellow the important information for you to keep in mind, that you have to maintain full-time enrollment each consecutive semester. So if you take a semester off, you may lose that scholarship altogether, or at least that portion if you're not attending. And then 12 credit hours is full-time. There's your GPA of 2.0. You have to reapply or submit the FAFSA every single year to maintain eligibility in the Promise scholarship. And then January 15th is our preferred deadline. So please submit that to make sure that you are qualifying for the most amount of aid that we can offer you. I'm going to read this portion just because it's really important for me that you understand how this is going to work out, okay? So it says, and there's the portfolio name would be basically the Dallas Promise or the T3 or Texoma, you fill in the blank. Will pay full tuition and fees after all other scholarships, state and federal aid, excluding loans, have been deducted from your tuition and fees balance. Should you have sufficient funds to cover full tuition and fees, you will not see the name of scholarship posted in your student account. However, for 4 consecutive years or completion of your bachelor's degree, whichever comes first, and as long as the eligibility criteria above is met, we will track your tuition and fees charges to ensure that the scholarship applies to any semesters where tuition and fees are not fully covered. So even if you don't receive any money in your first semester, you may receive on your second or your fifth or so forth up until your 8th semester. Now, this is very important. I want you to take note of this. This is very important. Please note, if you qualify for the last dollar scholarship, it will be applied to your student account after census day. That is the 12th day of classes, okay? To ensure that no changes can be made to your class schedule, because when you change your schedule, you change your bill. And we need a bill that is set in stone, that's not going to change, so we can pay for it. So if you accepted financial aid and scholarships are not enough to cover your charges, you may need to make payment arrangements to secure your classes prior to any published payment deadline. So I can tell you that the deadline is going to come before school starts for you to pay for school, and your Promise scholarship is not going to be in your account. So what this is saying is make sure that so you have 2 options. Either you can forward the funds and just pay for your bill in full, and then we will, of course, refund you for any amount that should have been paid by your scholarship, or you sign up for a payment plan that Brandy already explained, and then make sure that your classes can be held until we can process your scholarship after census day. Okay, just know that the installment plans do have a non-refundable fee. I believe it's $25, but I don't know for certain. And then your offer does give you the link to where you can go in the bursar's office website to check your payment options. Okay, and then once again, just a reminder that this is renewable for up to 4 consecutive years. There are a few exceptions to full-time enrollment. If you are in your final semester of coursework, so your very last semester here, you don't need 12 credit hours to graduate. Of course, we're going to still give you your scholarship. Or if you're a student teaching, that's only 6 credit hours, or interning, or your semester before you student teach, you've already completed all your coursework. If you're a nursing student and you have prerequisites to enter the program, for example, during that semester where you can only take, I think, 4 credit hours or so, we will give you your scholarship still, okay? You will have an appeal form that will, so basically what we do is about a week before school starts each semester, we audit your enrollments, and then we email directly everyone who's not enrolled in the minimum required of their scholarship and offer a link to a Google form, which is an appeal form, so you can be considered for one of these exceptions. It'll take you at the most a minute to fill out that form, okay? And then we will process an exception for you. We do have some situations that, you know, just things happen, like Brandy said, in life. You know, sometimes things happen. If you're battling some sort of illness, whether physical or mental, or if you're, you know, if someone in your family, God forbid, passes away, or, you know, something major happens in your life that affects either your grades or your ability to attend full time, that you can also express that in that appeal form. And then that would actually go to our General Scholarship Committee for a decision if you can be still receiving a scholarship or not. And that's it. This is our scholarship team. So we're actually located at Breckenridge Hall. I think at least until the end of this month, we're about to be moved out because they're going to renovate this whole building, and it's going to look amazing, but it is going to take 2 years. So I believe we're going to be moving over to the same place, the same building as financial aid, but the first floor. So ACT is our building, but for the time being, we're still at Breckenridge Hall, room 112. And I am Falda Chandler, the Associate Director of Scholarships. Lisa Quinones, our wonderful scholarships manager. Maybe some of you have already had the pleasure of meeting her or talking with her. And we're currently hiring a new scholarship coordinator. So our emails are also backed up. I hate to say it, but it is true. Probably the best way to contact us right now, I would say, is just call us. That number that you see right there on the screen, the 940-898-3050. And then we will answer the questions that you may have for us. And I think that concludes my presentation, and we should be open for questions.
All right. Well, thank you too very much. I have tried to capture all the messages that have come through so far. So what we're going to do is some of them, thank you, Brandy, has already gone in and answered a couple of those. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask those questions for either Brandy or Mafalda to answer. If I missed your question, just type it in again at the end, and then we'll go back again, okay? Let's get started. Our first question, I believe you answered. Another question, if a student has a balance for an estimated aid, but was sent an email asking that they received a message that says, looking at your current schedule, your tuition and fees are less than that amount. Your fall 2023 gift aid is, how do they know to pay everything? So it's a question, I guess, regarding the breakdown of what was owed and what was the student qualified for. So they want to know, how do they pay everything?
Okay, I can answer that question. And if the student wants to chime in, they're welcome to kind of help out, you know, as far as their question as well. So basically, right now, you can log into your TWU self-service payment portal system. And if you're registered, see what your fall bill is, okay? At a glance, students sometimes look and they think that the payment has been made, but it hasn't. It's just that financial aid's holding your classes if you have enough financial aid there to hold your classes. That it looks like payments being applied, but it hasn't. So right now, when you look at your bill may say something like $5,500 if it's just tuition and fees, okay? Then you log into your just TWU self-service, the financial aid section, and see what your financial aid award would be. Don't count work study though. Okay, I had a question on that. Work study is a separate program and can't be accounted in your fall bill. And so if your financial aid with the grant and if you took out loans is $6,000 and your bill is $5,500, you're going to see a negative amount there. That a negative amount is going to go to you when it's time to release the financial aid after classes start. Okay, right before the census date, but after classes start. And so that's how you can tell if you have enough financial aid to cover your total bill.
Thank you, Brandy. Our next question is...
Sorry, can I just add something? Yes. We have a wonderful little tool also. If you just, I Google everything because I think it's the easiest way to find things. If you just Google TWU Estimator, ESTIMATOR, it gives you basically access to a little, it's like a calculator. You put in your information, you know, you start by putting in the term, and then you start by putting in how many credit hours you're going to get if you're in state or out of state, etc. And it basically calculates for you how much your tuition and fees are estimated to be per semester. So if you want to have, you know, if you know, for example, if you're still in the fall semester, but you know that for the spring you need to enroll in 13 credit hours, but you enrolled in 15 in the fall, and you want to see the difference, use the estimator because it's really good. It actually gives you a pretty close amount for what you would owe. And then in your portal, you should have access to see how much you got in financial aid, and it's all divided into fall and spring. So you add it all up, you divide it by 2, and then you subtract your financial aid from what the estimator gives you. And that will give you an idea for a tuition and fees. And then you should probably know how much you owe for housing because it should probably be the same every semester. Okay, so that's another tool for you that you can use to have a little bit of an idea ahead of time of how much you would possibly owe.
Thank you. I also want to just really quickly, I know this term was used in the presentation. It's called census date. This is the official date of record that you stay in class. What this means at any institution is that the institution determines a date, and it's a fixed date every semester, which means you can make changes to your schedule. You can move from one class to another, drop those things prior to census. Anything after census will be part of your academic record, and it will follow you on your transcript. So that's what census means. I'm also going to put the link in our chat so that you can find out what our census date is for every semester. And it's got the full calendar there, so you can look that up as well. Thank you. So we had a student who asked, what about Dallas Promise and how would it look like on your financial aid? This question was covered through the presentation. And I think this, maybe the question came out beforehand, but it's broken down on your award letter. Anything else that needs to be added, Brandy or Mafalda?
No, except for it's just a basic synopsis. A lot of students get confused because of the, like the zero tuition, you know, the name. It doesn't mean that it's gonna pay all of your tuition. You know, that's why I kind of change it in my own words to bridge the gap on both programs. And you know, students, it would be one or the other. It wouldn't be both. You know, if they qualify for the Dallas Promise and that takes care of it, then of course they wouldn't need the zero tuition, you know, program.
Thank you. What if the student has not gotten their financial aid award yet? So the first thing is you need to log into your self-service account so that you can make sure that you are registered for the fall semester. And then Brandy and Mafalda?
It could be a variable of several different things. You know, the number one that I've seen when answering phones or emails is when students apply to TWU and they put in their applied taxes application, they have the option whether or not to put in their social, which is okay, all right? But what happens if they don't put in their social is we can't pull in their FAFSA application, then they're assigned a school social, all right? So it can be corrected if that occurs, the student just basically would need to contact the registrar's office and send them whatever they need to update their social security number in the system so that the student can go back in and send us their FAFSA application later. That's the number one thing as to why their financial aid may not be available. Another thing, maybe they're going through verification. Maybe there's a verification document. It's very important that you check your emails at least once a week. The TWU emails, to be specific. If you're having trouble logging into your portal or logging into your TWU emails, we do have a help desk IT department that can help you log in and figure out why. So that's why it's important to, check your TWU emails to see if we have communicated with you. Check your spam folder, your junk mail to see if there's something that we need you to turn in. But you just basically log in, like you mentioned, to your self-service financial aid account under forms, and there may be something there that we're missing, like a document, and it'll show there on the general forms if there's something we need you to fill out online. And so, yeah, there's an issue. If you haven't been awarded by today, then something's going on.
Yes, and to piggyback on Brandy, I just want to say, if you receive an email from financial aid, from the scholarships at twu.edu, or from the bursar's office, make sure you actually read it thoroughly and you pay attention. Do not ignore it. Don't think, oh, I have a scholarship, so I don't owe this money. No, it may be that for some reason your scholarship didn't disperse. Perhaps you weren't enrolled in the amount of hours you were supposed to be, or there could be just an error. And so it's very important. Don't just ignore it. Make sure that you pay attention to that and read that. I can tell you for our office, we do not spam. When we email you specifically. And it's personal and we mean it. It's intentional, okay? We don't send just like general, do this to everybody. No, if we email you, it will have your name on it. It might have your ID number, and we mean it for you. So make sure you read it.
And also a good reminder, clear out your voicemail. I tried to call a student yesterday and leave a message, and the mailbox was full. So then if we're trying to contact you and resolve your issue in that moment, and we're not able to leave a message, then that can further delay the process. But definitely as we start getting closer to the semester, you want to check your email a lot more frequently. And I know Brandy mentioned a week, at least every week, especially if you have pending documents. So our next question, if you accept the loans, do you have to use them? And then I have another question that's almost like that. If we decline loans, but that we decide later that we need them, how do you get that back?
I can answer that one. Yes, if you decide that you declined your loans, as long as it's within the academic year, okay, then just call us or send us an email, and we do process those in date order. And so, yes, we can reprocess your loans if you decide to decline them, as long as it's within this academic year semester. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
If you accept your loans, do you have to use them?
Well, you just make sure you reject them if you don't want them. Okay, because if you accepted them and they're dispersed, then of course you're responsible to pay them back. Just make sure if you don't want them that you go back in and reject them. All right, and if you accepted them and they're dispersed, okay, there is a way we can cancel, but you can always send funds back to your loan servicer that you're assigned to. And you can make sporadic payments at any time with no penalties, and you can pay off your loans at no penalties early as well.
If a student is considering returning student loans or the loans that they don't use, how long do you recommend they wait? Like as soon as possible, it needs to be done as soon as possible, not wait towards the end of the semester?
Like if they want to make a payment back to their loan servicer, or they're canceling their loan?
Canceling their loan.
I would definitely do it before we disperse aid, and we're going to start dispersing aid right after classes start, but right before the census day of the semester.
Thank you. If financial aid says ineligible right now, is that because it won't be used till the first day of classes, or is there probably some other reason for that?
It's the main one that I've seen lately is the fact that the student is not in a class that's part of their degree plan. And that's the number one, okay? because in order to receive financial aid assistance, you have to be in seeking program and the classes have to be a part of your degree. I've seen students maybe want to work on a minor. They're thinking that they are, but it's not registered, their minor, with the registrar's office. It's another, big one as well. Just make sure that the classes that you're in are a part of your degree plan. It could be that you were calculated for 6 hours and now you're in another class. It's maybe just something we need to just do a simple fix and update your Pell Grant. Another thing I wanted to mention as well, there's a max on how much financial aid you can borrow. So just try to get, your classes, take your classes and try to get in and complete them on time, because Pell Grants do run out. You can only get up to a certain percentage of Pell Grants. And then the loan program, the maximum you can borrow, whether you're working on your first or second bachelor's degree, is $57,500. And, there's only a certain amount that you can take out per academic year. So it's good to, whatever refund you're getting, I kind of teach my students, let's say your refund's $2,000 for the fall, take that $2,000, divide it by 4.5 months, and that's how much you can kind of budget that you're going to, have per month. Does that make sense? So, just to kind of help you in your mind, and don't go to Cancun. Okay, guys. Okay.
Don't spend it all in one place.
Yes. So, yeah.
And this question, I believe, was answered as well. How do we know if we received scholarships?
So you would have received an email notification. If you received a TW institutional scholarship, you should also have received a letter in your mail and a text message, unless your messages are full or something is not working with your text message once again. So you should have received plenty of communications that you have received a scholarship. I did see a question asking if someone had received a scholarship. We are still working on scholarships. Actually, we're a little bit delayed this year. As you've seen, we're hiring a new member, which means that we're short-staffed right now. So all of our institutional scholarships have been awarded already. We're still working on some of our departmental scholarships and our general endowed scholarships. We're trying to work as fast as we can to hopefully make those offers before school starts, but we are running late. So some of you may still receive an offer. Scholarships are competitive. They're a competition. So even though we say that the minimum is at 3.0 to be considered, the truth is we may run out of funds way before that. I can tell you, for example, we've run out of funds for transfer at 3.68 level, and 3.4 is the minimum to get a scholarship for a transfer. So the way it works is we filter your GPA, all the GPAs from highest to lowest, and we start awarding funds until we run out of money. And depending on the pool of applicants and how strong they are, that will basically determine, how far down the GPA level we can go each year, and it may differ every single year.
Thank you. Is work study part of what is considered gift aid for the zero tuition guarantee program?
I can answer that. Whenever they're considering the zero tuition program, what they will consider is scholarships, whether TW scholarships or outside scholarships. They will consider grants, whether federal or state grants. They will not include loans, and they will not include the work study program. No, it's a separate entity.
Thank you. If a student received an email that they have outstanding items that require action, could you just one more time review where would they find that?
If they've received a what?
If they received an email from financial aid stating there are outstanding items.
They would log into their TW self-service account under the financial aid section under forms. And it would say if something's missing, it'll say items missing there. They would also probably need to contact the financial aid office to see why they're receiving that. There may be an issue that we may need an item or a verification document or something to get them through. Or they could have, sometimes FAFSAs are flagged, and there's something that we need in order to clear that flag to get them awarded.
Thank you. I think our last question was again on scholarships. It was a scholarship question. Phi Theta Kappa, is that one of the scholarships that's still pending review for disbursement?
Yes, that actually requires an application, and the student needs to upload a document that basically proves that they had a Phi Theta Kappa. It's in our scholarship application. However, the problem is it closed March 1st, so we're already in August. So we're way past the deadline. It is open again for the following academic year. I would highly recommend you apply, but we have not processed PTK scholarships yet. Also, I did see some questions regarding, I have a 3.0 or a 3.8 or a 4.0, and I didn't receive a scholarship. That usually means you applied pretty late. We do stop awarding institutional scholarships. So we do them in mass for everyone who comes in until the end of January. And then after that, it's on a case-by-case basis. But if you applied pretty late, I would say after March, I'm not sure if you would still qualify for an institutional scholarship. But email me or come to the office. That's what I would recommend. Just come over to the office, and we'll talk about it.
One last question before we wrap up, and this one has to do with GPA. If I am coming to TWU with the college GPA, is that applicable for a scholarship?
Does it mention what the college GPA is?
A 3.5. Could I use that for scholarship?
Yeah, I mean, so everyone who comes in gets their GPA recalculated. So students don't like that. We remove their electives. I believe we only look at core. That's the admissions GPA. The Office of Admissions Process does that. And so, but everyone is on equal basis on that, basically. So if you have a 3.5, that's a fairly good GPA. So it's possible you may qualify for something. It depends if you applied for scholarships before the deadline. If you have not, once again, please do apply for the following academic year of 24-25. But yes, if you have an application, you will be considered for scholarships. Doesn't mean you'll be selected. It depends on the pool of applicants, but you will definitely be considered.
Thank you. I think just to wrap up, the students who are here today are within our Promise program. Could you just help us understand if a student did not qualify for the Promise program, how does that work? So if they received, a zero amount for Promise, what is that based off of and what does that mean?
So a zero amount for Promise doesn't mean they're not qualified. It just means that they did not have room for us to put in the Promise in their account. So that means that they may, if they've received an offer, and that should be, if they should have an email about it, but if they have not received an email, they can log into the TWU-Pioneer, so the Pioneer Scholarship System, which is the link that I put up there is the twu.academicworks.com. Look under the tab that says My Applications, and then find under the current it's not a tab, it's just like of a headline. See if you have your Promise offer there. If you believe you qualify for Promise and you have not received an offer, come see me, okay? Sometimes we have something missing. For example, if you are a TASFA student and we're still processing your TASFA because this is based on your either FAFSA or TASFA, we don't have that information yet. And so perhaps you haven't received an offer yet. So I'll try and find out why that is and then see if you're eligible.
Thank you very much. We don't have any more time for any further questions. We tried to get to as many as we could. We will be following up with adding today's presentations, and that will include the contact information for our speakers and then their offices in general. If you have questions, please follow up directly with them. And they would love to continue to help you answer your questions. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Mafalda, for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. We're going to drop for all of our attendees today. We're going to redrop the link for you to be able to submit that survey. We would love to hear your feedback. I also want to let our students know that in your Google Classroom, you have a section for each presentation. Within this section, you will find a copy of the PowerPoints and a copy to the survey. So they will not be posted until after. So we'll go in today and we will post the financial aid ones, and that'll be throughout the week. It'll be like that. But if anybody has any questions, we are going to go ahead and stick around. But thank you, Brandy, and thank you, Mafalda.